Hello, crafting friends. I'm Doreen DeCebus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Simply Stamping Sunday. I hope you've had a great weekend. It's been pretty nice here. It wasn't too cold, so that's what I mean by it was pretty nice. It is supposed to, though, get back to frigid sometimes, I think, either tomorrow or Tuesday. So I hope you're warm wherever you are. So tonight is week 5. We had 5 Sundays in January. It's week 5 for the terrific Toadstools. And I have some fun folds for you. I'm really excited to show you those. So let me just make sure you can see everything on my mat. I never know what my camera's going to show me when I turn it on, but it looks like I'm a little off center. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Okay. So, first of all, I wanted to just share some things that I've been working on. Leslie and I got together this weekend to do some stamping yesterday, and we were working with the heart-shaped bundle. So the first thing that I made, this is actually Leslie using it in class. I used the small cards that come with the Memories and More. I think it's just the perfect size for a Valentine's. And so I stamped in petal pink the heart wreath, and then I die cut it right from the layer piece and put that on top, stamped some flowers and did the same on the inside. And this saying, "My thoughts of you are all heart-shaped," fits right in the center of the heart. So it makes a really cute little Valentine's. And so I can't say that all my Valentines will look like this, but I am using these cards because they just fit nicely. Here's a full-size card that I made. And this one was stamped in 3 different pinks. So petal pink, melon mamba, and flirty flamingo. And the label says, "My heart loves your heart." I used a little bit of gold twine and some of the gold heart embellishments. So that, again, makes a really nice card as well. Here I use the Timeless Plaid Designer Series paper. Put a piece on the inside too. Another full-size card. Very simple to make. I just die cut the heart wreath in Misty Moonlight and in white and stamped it in Night of Navy, and then cut a label from the Greetings of a Season dies. So, and then I just use the antique pearls to embellish it. A hint that Leslie told me is if you put these on the paper on an adhesive sheet, the die will pop right out of the die, and then you already have your adhesive on. Here's another full-side card that we made using Balmy Blue. I stamped some hearts going in a diagonal, used some of the beautiful bouquet paper, and just stamped and added a flower, some ribbon, and some rhinestones. This card also uses the bouquet yellow, the beautiful bouquet paper in the daffodil, and we used a 3x3 square, cut it in a diagonal and put it in each corner, and then just used the Blackberry Bliss to embellish one flower. The only stamping was just because I care. Here on the inside, I'll just show you I stamped flowers in both corners and then just put a little piece that I flagged and made a little banner of the Designer Series paper on the inside. But on the outside, it's amazing the look you can get from just changing something. Instead of layering this on top of this, we just turned it to a diamond and put it on catacorner like that over the Designer Series paper and some more cherry cobbler paper. But again, no die cutting on this except for the label, and we did stamp the wreath and added those heart-shaped embellishments. Again, this uses the Timeless Plaid, and we die cut flowers and the wreath from white. The only stamping again is the thank you, and we did put some designer series paper and a stamp on the inside of the card, and just used the iridescent foil gems to embellish it. On this card, again, we use the iridescent gems to embellish. The only stamping, again, is that label with My Heart Loves Your Heart, and everything else is die cut. And then the piece of paper, the white paper in the background, is embossed with the Starstruck embossing folder, which is also a celebration item that you can get for free. So I'm hoping you can see that image close up as I have it here closer to the camera. Really pretty design. This one's just such a soft and sweet thank you card. Again, die cut the wreath, added some of the birthday paper, wildflower birthday paper from the new mini catalog. Used just all of those soft shades of pink and soft sea foam, and the flower was just an extra flower we had from another project, and then added some white twine, and didn't do anything to the inside of that card. And then finally, this card here, we used 2 embossing folders, 2 new ones, the Starstruck one on the white, and on the blue we used the plaster. Just used some of the beautiful bouquet paper, just the thank you from the set, for a sweet little thank you card. So just giving you a little bit of preview. These will all be listed as a card of the day as we move forward. So tonight's all fun folds. I've done all the stamping and the cutting ahead of time because I wanted to have time to do the fun folds, and I wanted to do 3 like I usually do. I would have had to cut it down if I didn't already have the stamping and cutting done. So I have a little bit of stamping. Like, I don't think I stamped the greetings, so we'll be doing that. But here we have our first fun fold. So this fun fold uses a complete sheet of a 6x6 designer series paper. So we have the front that looks like that, and then of course we have the inside of the card. So let's get started. Just gonna grab my ink and a block, and I have the stamp set right here so we can get that popping up and my plastic is not cooperating. Okay, we need those 2 stamps. All right, so we are going to put this one here. We'll be using the Granny Apple Green on this one. Excuse me, I still am just having a little bit of something going on in my throat. All right, excuse me. Okay, let's get started. There we go. So with our piece of 6x6 designer series paper, I am going to first cut off a 1/2 inch because I'm going to need the 1/2 inch for the inside, and I am going to need this to be 5.5 inches. But I need it to stay at 6 inches, so that's all I'm going to cut off. Like I said, we're going to use every part of this. So here we have this, and what I'm going to do is do some scoring. Now, what you have to think about is if you have paper that has directionality, you've got to be careful of how you score. So I'm going to be scoring this at 1 3/4 of an inch. And I am going to turn this back the way I want it. Excuse me. And now when I fold that, I get that panel I want to see on the front, and I get the inside. And this is going to go on the front of the card. So we need this 6x6 piece of paper, and then we need of basic white thick. We need a piece that measures 5.5 by 8.5. This piece is going to cover the entire front of the card. So let's get that on first. This way, not only are we using the entire piece of designer series paper, but you're going to be able to see both sides of it with this card, and that makes it really nice. So before I press, I just want to get this lined up nice and even. It just sticks so fast. Okay, before I even had it lined up nice and even. There we go. So this is kind of an additional piece to the front of the card. We are going to be stamping on this, on one of these, and we're going to be attaching this to the other. And I want to make sure I get those ladybugs in and a mushroom. So that's why I don't cut this ahead of time, because I want to make sure I'm getting onto this piece what I want onto this piece. So now I can just trim it. So like I said, we're going to use almost all of this piece of designer series paper. This is all that's left. So this piece is all ready for the inside, like I showed you. And then this piece, we're going to do a little stamping. Okay, so I'm going to start with stamping my ground in Granny Apple Green. And this is going to go right across the front, and I want to leave room for the label. So I'm going to stamp that. And I'm going to stamp one of my mushrooms. Get those two pieces out. And I'm just going to mount this on the same block, and I'm just going to make sure I can see through the block for each. So I'm going to use the Early Espresso to stamp the stem. There we go. And then I'm going to use Pumpkin Pie to stamp the mushrooms on top of it. There we go. And then finally, I'm going to be stamping. So here I have everything I need for this card. There we go. And I'm going to need this piece here that I'm going to stamp the popping up in Early Espresso. This piece measures, I think, 1 by 3. Yes, 1 by 3. Remember, I'm going to put all of the dimensions in the comments, and I will have it in the on my Facebook page, and I will have it in the description on my YouTube channel. So I want to thank you all for following my page, liking my page. I am almost up to 350 followers on Facebook, and that is so awesome. And on YouTube, I am up, which I can't believe, I am almost up to 1,800 subscribers. So thank you so much for subscribing, liking, and doing all those things. Appreciate it. All right, so we've got the popping up done. So now all we have to do is put this card together. There we go. Let's just... So I am going to need one small and one large stem, and I'm going to need a fresh fuchsia and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting the mushrooms together, adding a little adhesive. To this one, and this one's just going to go flat down, so I'm just going to add some more adhesive, and we're going to put this one so it is right here, and then on this one, after we put it down, we're going to add some dimensionals to the backing of it. So I'll just add a little bit of adhesive here, add this to the back, and I'm going to grab my tiny miniature dimensionals and add these to the back. So they're little. I like to use my my tool to put these on. I don't need... There we go. That's good enough. And we'll add this to the front. There we go. And this one's kind of going to be on top of all those others. And then we're going to add dimensionals to this one as well. And our little tag is made, and then all we'll have to do is finish putting this together and do a little stamping on the inside. There, that looks good. So let's do the stamping on the inside, just so that we'll get all of this done. So I need just my early espresso. So make sure you say hi tonight. Let me know you're here and where you're watching from. I am here in southwestern New Hampshire. Okay, so now we are done with all of the stamping, and this is going to go on first. So I want to put that, I want it centered. Actually, I'm going to put this piece on first because it will be easier. So I'm going to center this right in on this panel, and I'm going to use the Stamp and Seal to put it on. And then what we're going to do is only put this piece, only put a little bit of adhesive on this side. And then what we want to do is layer this so it's going to cover the piece that's underneath. And there we have it. Our first fun fold is done. So we have the top flap and then the main opening of the card. So you have plenty of room to write a message on this fun note card. So let me put this aside and we'll go to our next card. For this card, you're going to need a full sheet of cardstock. Here I have a piece of garden green. And what you're going to do first is you are going to score this at 4 1/4 and you're going to score this at 5 1/2. So 4 1/4, 5 1/2. Then you're going to put this in the paper cutter. You make 2 cards, so I already had my second card, that's why I'm not going to cut it. And you are going to cut it from one end, the top corner, all the way to the bottom corner. And like I said, this will make your 2 cards. We have it scored here, where it be scored at 5 1/2, and here where it be scored at 4 1/4. And it's going to fold over like this. Okay, so this is what our card looks like. We have a belly band, which I love. So you're going to need a 1 1/4 by 11-inch piece of paper to make your belly band. And then to put everything on our belly band, you are going to need a piece that measures 3 by 1 3/4. And then we have the inside and the belly band goes on top. So let's start putting this together. So I have here 2 pieces of 4 by 5 1/4 pieces of white cardstock, and I have a piece of designer series paper that measures 3 3/4 by 5. We're going to be cutting this in half as well. And then I have a 1/2 inch strip of paper that we're going to be putting at the bottom of this piece. So let me get this piece done. We're just going to add this. And I'm going to go right along the bottom. Like that. Trim these edges. Like I said, I never cut them to size because this way I know they're going to fit no matter what. Okay, so there's our inside piece all done. And this is just going to go right on the inside. I'm going to have to cut both of my pieces of white and designer series paper for the front. So I'm going to take that with my cutter and I want it to be cut like this. So I'm going to put those 2 ends in the track of my paper cutter and I'm going to cut those right down. So I'll put those aside and then I'm going to take my designer series paper, want to do the same thing, so this corner to this corner, and bring it and cut that as well. Now I can attach these and put them on the front of the card. So I'm just going to use my Stampin' Seal to do this. And because they're that 1/4 inch different, they're going to layer on this really nicely. And then they'll layer on the front of the card really nicely too. So 1 sheet of one full sheet of cardstock will make 2 bases, as I said, for this card. And then you just need to cut your designer series paper so that to match, and you just need 2 of each. So here is our first panel done, and now we just need to add this one here. So even though this card looks a little complicated, it is actually pretty easy. Okay, so our card is now ready to go. And now we just have to do our decorating. So what I'm going to do first is stamp one of the mounds of grass onto this small piece of cardstock that is going to make our label. Oops, let's see if I can cover that. I totally kind of messed up on that. Oh, I'm just going to use the back and do it again. That's why we have 2 sides to a piece of cardstock. At least that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. Much better. All right, so now let's just put everything else on. So we need our other mound here. We're going to be using crumb cake for our different stems. So let me grab those. I'm going to use I fussy cut one of these out. I fussy cut all of these out because, like I said, I couldn't find I wouldn't have been able to do the punch anyway, and you have to fussy cut some of them. So, and I have this one, and looking for my little tiny pink one. There it is, hiding down below. Okay, we've got everything. So this piece of grass is going to go towards the bottom, but it's going to be up on dimensionals. So let's do that. I'll grab some of these little ones to put at the ends. There we go. And we'll get these backings off. Okay, you're all quiet out there tonight. And we're going to add that. So there we go. And now we can start just putting all of this together and adding what we need to add. So I am going to add a little bit of heat sip to this to put our first mushroom together. This one's just going to go on flat. So I'm just going to add adhesive to the back, and it's going to kind of slide under here. And this piece is going to go on dimensionals. There we go. And this one is not going to need dimensionals. We're just going to use adhesive for it. And it's going to come over here. There we go. And this big one is going to use dimensionals. we are going to need to double the dimensional at the top because of putting it on something that already has dimensions. And then I can just add some adhesive there. Gonna need to put these lower. I thought that might be the case. So I'm just going to bring these down to right there. And I'm just going to trim that little piece here so it doesn't come off the grass. There we go. Perfect. Now we're ready to make our belly band. So the first thing I do, hi Bonnie, the first thing I do when I'm making a belly band is I try to take out, some of the fibers, break them down a little bit so that they're going to go around the card nicely. And so I want to bring it around like this, but I want to make sure it's going to slide on and off. So I don't put too much adhesive down or have it, have it too tight around. Hi, Bonnie. Thanks for joining. Doesn't matter that you're late. It just matters that you're here. There we go. So this, you can see, moves up and down nicely. And then this is just going to go over that seam on to the front. So I'm going to actually put my adhesive right here so that it doesn't go where it's not supposed to be. And there we go. So here's the belly band, and here's how the card opens. So that is card number 2. And now let's go to card number 3. You can see that this is going to need a lot. So let me just get everything separated. We have a lot of mushrooms that are going on this one. And so we'll just separate them so that it'll be easier to see color. We're using all the same type of stem on them, so we don't have to worry about that. There's our grass cut out. And get our scraps out of the way. All right, the only stamping let me show you what the card looks like. So this is the card. It is a step card. So here's the inside. We'll be doing a little stamping there. But you can see that this opens up and it will stand like this. Kind of have it sideways so you can see. I put one mushroom onto the background paper and I put the rest are all over the front. So it's a fun card to do. I'm going to be stamping the popping up to say hi in Granny Apple Green. And so I'm just going to put some stamping cleaner on a paper towel and clean it off because we used early espresso last time and we don't want any of that on the stamp. So we'll get our garden green. I'm going to stamp it right in the middle because I'm going to cut each edge at a slant. So here we go, right in the middle. And then, as I said, I'm just going to cut these at a slant. Donnie, I hope you're feeling better. All right, there's that one. And now we can start getting all of our parts. So, to make this, we need a 4 1/4 by 11 sheet of Melon Mambo cardstock, and I've scored this at 5 1/2. We need a piece of, let's see, I think it's 4, yes, 4 by 9 1/2 piece of garden green, and I have scored it at 2 1/4 and 4 1/2 for the step. Then we need a piece of 3 7/8 by 4 1/8 of the designer series paper, and that's the back side of it. I'm using the wood grain. And then our last piece of paper measures 3 7/8 by 2 1/8. This is for the inside of our card, and it measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to do a little stamping on the inside. So let's get that stamp. Here we go. And I'm going to start with the Early Espresso and stamp the stems of this. I'm going to actually stamp 2 of them. There we go. And then again, I'm going to use the pumpkin pie and stamp the mushrooms. I agree, sinus infections are horrible. I used to have them all the time, and I really felt it was caused by mold in my classroom, but I ended up having to have sinus surgery because it turned out my sinus openings weren't large enough, and that has helped really drop the number of sinus infections I have. But I understand completely. Okay, so I'm going to start by folding my piece of Melon Mambo, and I have it ready to go. This is going to go on the inside, so we can put that in right now. This designer series paper really took me out of my comfort zone and really had me using color combinations that I normally wouldn't use, which has been fun. So my first fold, I want it to be a mountain fold. And then my second fold, I'm going to want it to be a valley fold. So this smaller piece is going to go on that front flap. I actually love this garden green greenery. And it is just going to be centered on that piece. And then I'm going to take this, and it is going to go on the inside top panel of the fold. Just make sure it's centered. And straight. There we go. That looks good. All right, then this is going to go onto the front of my card. And centered really nicely. Okay, now we're ready to start putting this all together. I am going to start with my dirt mound, and I am going to put my adhesive right along the bottom because I want to have room to be slipping in some of my mushrooms from the top. So by putting this at the bottom, it will work nicely. And this is going to go about halfway onto the paper. I want to have room to put this right, this right on the bottom like this, so it can go on top of some of the mushrooms as well. All right, so I'm going to start with my orange one because this is the only one going on the top. So I'm going to add, I think I'm going to add a glue dot to this just to help. And this will go right here. And then I'm just going to put one dimensional there, and I'm going to let this set aside for just a minute so I can put some of those underneath. So I'm going to take my Melon Mambo, and I want this one to sit right here going all the way to the edge. So I just need to put a little adhesive at the bottom and attach that like this. So it's going up on that background and none of that adhesive is going to show. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to add a glue dot to the top. And a glue dot to the bottom. And I'm going to, this is the one I'm going to have to cut. Forgot about that. We're going to cut this end right off because it's not going to show, because it's going to be behind the dirt. And we're going to slide it right in like that. Okay, there's our first mushroom. Then we're going to add our fresh fuchsia. And it is going to go, again, just a little bit on the bottom. So not very much adhesive at all. And we're going to put this so it's a little higher. Not much, but just a little bit. And let's see how if I need to cut this one. Yes, I will. So just cutting these ends off to make room. And I'm just going to use the glue dots for ease. So this is going to slide in. And there we go. So we have that one. And then we're going to use this one here. And it's going to kind of come in like this. Again, I want it to the end of the card, and it's going to come right down to that edge. So we're going to just put, again, a small amount of adhesive. This is, we're building this little mushroom field. And I'm just checking that there's no adhesive on the back. I'm going to take another one of these. This one I think I can get away with not cutting it because this is going to go right over it as well. So I'm going to just leave that one as it is. Adding glue dots again. So remember, this designer series paper is a celebration item, and you have until the end of February to spend $60 in order to get it. Okay, so those are our bases. Now we can start building upon this. So we've got 3 in the background. I'm going to add some adhesive again towards the bottom. And this one is going to kind of go go straight up and hit a little higher. And then we can take, and this one will have to be cut just a little bit again. Add those glue dots. And we're going to slide this behind and match it right up there. Even though we're not going to be able to see all of these stems, I like having them because just in case you can see it. This one here is going to go on top. So it can, I just want to make sure, I'm going to just put this dimensional down a little. Oh, no, I can't. So we're just going to have it, make sure not too much of it shows. There we go. So we have those. Actually, I'm going to bring it a little lower. And again, it doesn't matter. Well, I'm going to cut this one off just in case. It doesn't matter how that looks because the label's going to cover it up. Okay, so there is that. Now this one, I want it to go right behind like that. So I'm going to add some adhesive. So like I said, we're just building up this little mushroom garden. You know how it looks right after it rains in the fall or summer, and you get all those mushrooms all of a sudden forming. So now we have this really high one, and we just have to add the stem to it. And then we just have to add our sentiment. So that's what our little garden of mushrooms look like. Now we're going to take this and we are going to put some adhesive on the back. And we're going to have to double this on the bottom. Actually, we don't need to put any adhesive on the top. So I don't think we have to double it because I'm just need the one. So this is going to go over like this. And our our stepper card is done. So it's going to stand like this. It's going to look like this in the front. And you're going to open it like a regular card, like this. So let's take a look at what we made tonight. Let's get all this extra stuff out of the way. I guess I cut some extra stems. That will go in my little baggie. I don't know if I've shown you this, but I keep a baggie in my stamp set with all the extra pieces I've cut. So if I want to go make a card, I've got everything extra that I have that I can just use. All right. So our 3 cards tonight were these 2 and this one. So I hope you enjoyed all month long of all of the Toadstool cards that we've made so far. And I hope that you're ready for next week for a new month and a new stamp set. Remember, I'm coming back Tuesday night for my Technique Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month. And I'll be back Friday night for Fun Fold Friday. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.